Hey guys, Garrett97 again. This time a review of the A set of the high grade customized campaign. And with this set we're getting the bazooka, a bunch of adapters for the arms, and 2 adapters for the waist. Immediately starting off with the bazooka. The bazooka itself, well, it's mainly just a solid piece. You have several pieces, but nothing on it is moving. One important thing to point out is that there are 2 holes in it, one on either side, and that is going to come in very useful when you're combining it with other sets. The thing is, with the normal pegs here, the common ones, you can put them in, and well, with this set alone, it doesn't look like you can do a lot with it, but with the other sets, this thing will see a lot more use, also for storage and so on and so forth. But now the question is, what mobile suits can use this? Here it is with the standard Federation hands, and it works like a charm. It's a bit on the wobbly side, as it's going to be with all of them, but because it's a bazooka and you're supposed to put it on shoulder, it's gonna be very stable. And even better news, they also work with the normal closed holding hands for the beam sabers. So that is some fantastic news there. And the same goes for pretty much all of the high-grade Universal Sentries. And just as with the standard Federation hands, the other holding hands can all hold the bazooka as well, thanks to that thin handle. And the story is always the same. They can hold on to it. It's gonna be a bit floppy, but once you secure it on the shoulder or underneath the shoulder, it's gonna sit there very securely. And when I say all machines, I mean all machines. From the All Gundam project to high grades that aren't part of the high grade Universal Century, high grade Cosmic Era, high grade After War, or anything. The old high grades from Seed will work, the old high grades from Double O will work, all the other high grades will work, to even things that don't even have hands. This bazooka is one size fits all. And in case you still weren't quite convinced, it fits on everything. Then the final thing we gotta do with the bazooka is a quick size comparison, because the problem is that it's not quite as long as some of the other bazookas out there. Here we have the Zaku bazooka, and you can see it's significantly shorter. Here is the Hyper bazooka, once again significantly shorter. And then here is the rail cannon from the Ground Gundam, once again significantly shorter. So that's the one unfortunate thing. It would have been better if it was longer. That would have been much better. Just put an extra piece in, or give us like the option, put a piece in here. And then we can choose whether we want the long one or the short one, like that transforming bazooka from the Unicorn. And because of that, it actually looks quite good on the shorter ones. But now let's get on with the joint parts. And even just looking at the manual will tell us what kind of fun we're into. And actually, there's one more fun thing that the manual doesn't tell us. But before we get to that, let's start with this one. And these joints, we get 2 of these small ones. They will connect the older style ones with, well, the old style, kind of what was standard at the time for shoulders. They will allow you to put those on the newer ones, which have the ball joints go in there. So simply have this. For example, we grab here the Gym Sniper 2. And let's say we want to give him the Gym Customs arms. So plug that in there. And you can see that is a very secure fit. You grab the Gym Customs arm, and then you just pop that on there. And that is gonna be a perfect fit. As you can see, it looks pretty much just as good as that arm would have looked. Now, there is a reason why I started with this, and that is because all of the other parts are made to go on these standard shoulder units. So that means that, of course, all of those parts can also be mounted on this, and that is something the manual doesn't specify. Maybe they think it's obvious, or maybe they just forgot. So all of these things can also be pulled off with the newer ones with the ball joint joints. So then let's look at some other crazy stuff we can do. We can have a Zaku 2 with the GOG arms. So grab a GOG, rip off his arm, grab a Zaku 2 and rip off the other arm. Alright, I'll just go with Char's arm then. There we go, and then you grab this one. Of course, get two of them, simply slide it over there, and you connect it. So yeah, I guess this is something Xeon might have tried at the end of the war if they were in really desperate need. So once again, like I said, you can just put that on the Gym Sniper 2 as well by using that connector. The unfortunate news is that, as far as I know, only the GOG uses this style of connection. Not even the Zagog here has the same kind of connection. It has a similar kind, but the ball joints in the Zagog are smaller than the ones used by the GOG. So the entire point of those two connector parts are to connect the GOG arms to any other mobile suits. That's a very niche thing they're giving us. And then when we look at some others that we're getting, for example, A8 here, and that is to connect the regular style connector to the bigger style connector. And there are a few kits that use these, such as the Cublay, the Xeon, generally speaking, the more massive ones. And I guess now is a good time to mention that some of these connectors will also appear in other sets. For example, the one I was just talking about with the Cublay connector will also appear in the B set. Literally exactly the same, and this one will explain to you that you can use the Cublay arms with it. So let's quickly give Zaku 2 here the Cublay arms, because you know they get along so well. And we once again rip it off, and then you will see that, well, we've got a problem here, because the Cublay has a peg here, and that thing also has a peg. So with this connector, simply slide this in here, and then you put that on there. So once again, everything that has a similar style connection like this, whether it's the Xeon or the Cublay, this will work. Though admittedly, this looks a bit wrong, to put it like that. It's quite obvious that you're using an extra connection part. Unlike the GOG one, which is very flush, or the one that connects the ball joint to the regular one, that's very flush. This one jits out. It does kind of stand out like a sore thumb. But I guess with a bit of paint might make it look a bit better, have something to cover it up, make it look more mechanical. That is definitely something that modders are gonna have to take into account. This is definitely not a perfect connection. Talking about connections that aren't perfect, this, the next part we're getting, and the final one for the arms, are two of these ones. Once again, for the normal shoulder joints, these will connect them to the bigger style ones. And unfortunately, I do not have any of these, so I can't test it out. I don't have the GPO2. So I simply decided to measure the tube here, and it's 4 millimeters across. So if you have a mobile suit that uses a 4 millimeter shoulder peg, this is what it's for. So simply goes over the thing, and then you put it on there. An example being the GPO2. Finally, for the waist adapter, we're getting these two things, and unfortunately this is where we hit a design flaw, a quite critical one. So at first glance, well, it does work on one thing. For example, you put this on here, and this is once again a 4 millimeter tube. So if you have a mobile suit with a hole in the lower body, it's 4 millimeter, that's where it's going to go into. And then when you have a mobile suit with an upper body with a hole of 4 millimeters, that's also where it's going to go into. The problem is what they want us to do here. So what we have to do is put this on here, and that's immediately where the problems start, because this thing is loose as all hell. As you can see, it doesn't even, there's no friction going on there at all. It's as loose as it can be. But that's not the worst of it all. So what they want you to do is simply put it on there. But what they forgot to mention is that the ball joint can't be in there. Now, how are we gonna remove that ball joint? We can't. Unless you want to risk ruining the ball joint, that ball joint isn't gonna go anywhere. Unless you have like some kind of crooked stick, you have like a crooked metal part, and you can jam it in there and pull it out with a lot of force. That ball joint isn't gonna go anywhere. So you can't connect it because that ball joint is gonna get in the way. You can't connect it like this. But you want to know what the best part is. In the B set, we're actually getting a part that circumvents this problem and will actually go in the ball joint. That will actually fit on there, and this lower one here is the same thickness as the one we're getting here. So this has a thick one and a small one. This is then the standard used by most of the model kits. So this part is absolutely useless. Just all this is designed to do is attach on here, which this part does 1,000,000 times better. This doesn't even stay on the part it's supposed to stay on, and can't go in the part it's supposed to go into. This part is a complete and utter waste. It's useless. And just because you can have one part that does it a lot better. But then the good news is this one will actually be useful for connecting it to other things. And that brings us to the conclusion of this set. It's a nifty little set, but it's far from being my favorite. It has some nice things going on here, but overall, the other ones can do a lot more. This one is a bit less, how to put it, imaginative. You can't really do a lot of crazy stuff with it. It's mostly basic stuff like changing torsos and legs. That connector part is really awesome. If you just throw this away. Same goes for those pegs that allow you to connect the standard older style shoulders to the ball joint shoulders. That's a fantastic part. Unfortunately, it is included with a few other ones as well. The Bazooka is really nice. And then we have the other parts like, well, the GOG connector, which is a very niche thing. And the same kind of goes for the connector that is used for the Cubelay and the Xeon. And then, of course, we also have this connector, which is also quite neat. And the problem with the 4mm connector and then the connector for the Cubelay and the Xeon is that they stand out. And it's very obvious that, well, you just made this modification on a model kit, whereas these two here, when you paint them, they're gonna look right. Now it might look a bit off because you have those weird colors going on, but this will look pretty good with those legs. And same goes for a Gym Sniper 2 here. That's gonna look really good. And hell, I think even this would look pretty good painted in a uniform color scheme. That would go together much better. So you have some nice things going on, but overall, the other weapon sets are definitely better. So absolutely look forward to those. And if you have a specific question about a specific compatibility, like will that torso work with this connector on those legs or something like that, definitely post a comment down below. If I have the model kit, I will try it out, and otherwise maybe someone else in the comments will be kind enough to help you out. And that's all for this review. Final note, why aren't these commercially available? I'm just gonna put this quick rant here at the end. Why? I think we can all agree that if all of these sets were commercially available, we'd all go out and buy it. So maybe that's a good thing to wrap up with. I've seen a few of these on eBay for $16 and like combo sets for more. I wouldn't pay that much for this set. Absolutely not. It's a nice set, but if you're gonna pay that kind of money, pay it for one of the other sets. You will find out why. So that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.